Hey everybody, Dave here, and I got a video for you that is going to hopefully excite you and give you some encouragement in doing some generative AI. Now here on my YouTube video folder that is up on my GitHub, I have a folder called Chat Platform Custom Connectors. These are 3 of the most popular connectors within the Microsoft Power Platform, and I hope that you get a lot of enjoyment out of them and create a lot of really cool apps. So the first one that I have here is, I'll talk about this one. OpenAI. This is OpenAI directly. This will allow you to interact with OpenAI directly, so if you so choose, use this one. If you want to use OpenAI inside of Azure, you'll go ahead and use this one. And then I just added today another one for Google, and the Google one is essentially, let's get this up over here, and let's talk about this. This is PaLM 2. So PaLM 2 is going to be the large language model that is behind Bard and a bunch of other Google services, just like Azure OpenAI uses the OpenAI component piece, but they've called it Copilot, and they've done a bunch of extra stuff to augment on top of it with fine tunings and embeddings to represent whatever's in the Microsoft ecosystem. So you get all of the benefits of OpenAI in addition to all of the Azure stuff, including security and things of that nature. So with that being said, let's show you a custom connector. Now in this environment, I already have 2 of the 3 custom connectors installed. Today we're going to install the PaLM because it's probably the more complicated, unfortunately. Thank you, Google. Everything, in my opinion, I'm maybe biased because I am more Microsoft than Google, although I do have a bunch of Google stuff that I use. And I find it quite simple, but sometimes Google just really makes things way harder than it needs to be. Okay, so with regards to the PaLM 2, this is how you're going to get started. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to come over here to my GitHub, and you're going to go into Google, and I got 2 files for you, a YAML file and a icon file. The icon file is essentially what you're going to use in these custom connectors. So to do the Google one, all you do is come up here to New Custom Connectors, and you're going to create it from blank. And I'm going to call mine Google PaLM to keep the name very simple. I'm going to upload the icon PaLM from that I've already downloaded, and I'm going to go ahead and upload and install this here. And with that being said, I'm going to jump over to Swagger mode, and I'm going to delete the code. Then I'm going to go back over to the GitHub repository. I'm going to click on this YAML file, and I'm going to come over here to this icon. I'm going to copy the raw file. Now with that being said, we're going to flip back over into the custom connector where you're in the Swagger editor, and you're going to paste all of this information down. Now if you hit Control H on the keyboard, it's going to allow you to do a search and replace. Okay, so before that, let's just do some bind Control F, and we'll type in your. So what do we got here? Your API key. And we see on line 72, and we also see down here on line 90, there are 2 places that you need to put in your Google API key. Now to get that, you're going to have access to the Maker Suite, which is at makersuite.google.com. You're going to have to apply for access. So once you get access, you'll be able to continue with this lesson or tutorial. If you don't have access, then just pause the video and come back when you do get access. But when you do, come over here to the key. You'll first generate the key, and after you do, you'll get something like this. Now I'm going to delete this key after the video, but in any event, we're going to show you that you copy the key out here. Let's go back over into, jumping around here, into the custom connector, and I am going to replace that key both here and in line 90 over here. That being said, we're going to toggle off the Swagger editor. We're going to come all the way over here to test. It says you must create the custom connector before testing. So here's a checkbox. Go ahead and create this link. It says create connector, and it'll go ahead and do that. And once you've done it, life will be good, and you'll be able to then follow along, which I do think, in my personal opinion, that when you're creating custom connectors, this next part is a pain in the neck. I think it's a bug, although it's probably a feature, right? So in any event, you need to create a connection using your new custom connector before you can test it. And that makes sense because you can't build an app without a connection, right? So same thing here. But when you do it, watch what happens. I'm going to be completely thrown out of this environment and popped and thrown into where my connections are. And now that I see a whole bunch of connections over here, let's go ahead and delete this one out. Yep, delete, go. What do you mean I don't have permissions? Delete. Let me pause this and get rid of this. So I'm not sure what happened. All I did was did a hard refresh of Control F5. I had a previous connection in there that I was testing before the video, and in any event, just disregard that piece of it. Okay, so in any event, I now have the connection. Anyway, my point is you get kicked out, and then when you get kicked out, you got to go all the way back over to your custom connector. You got to go all the way back into editing it. Then you have to click number 5 or use the drop down if you have that over here, and then you're finally back over here where now you can finally make a test. Now I have both of these items or operations ready to be tested, so you just click test. This will give you a response of 200. If you get anything other than 200, that means this thing is broken. Other than that, these are the bits of information that you have that you can use. Now let's try the completion where we've got a write a story, so text operation. Let's do that. And lo and behold, I should get a 200 below after it writes me a story about a magic backpack, and it did. And you can see that I've got the information that is here. So the reason I say Google's a little bit more complicated, because when you're doing custom connectors, the way that you use the OpenAI is pretty straightforward and pretty nice, because it just kind of works without too much finagling. But if you're weak with JSON or you don't understand it, I have another video about JSON, by the way. Should be up on the channel somewhere. I'll try to put a link in the description below. But in any event, you're going to really need to understand how this thing works. So I need you to notice that there's this thing called prompt.text. Text is basically a sub piece of prompt, and you'll see this when we get to do coding in just a few moments. But there's a couple of nuances, and the way that Power Apps handles untyped objects now, you're going to, again, need to know a little bit about JSON, but I'll show you how to get to that info. All right, so bottom line is we've tested the custom connector. The hard part's over. If we come out here to custom connectors, you should be able to see that everything is out here. We've got all 3 of these, which was what I was originally showing you out here on GitHub for each of the 3 folders. As new ones come up that I think are quite popular as well, I'll go ahead and I'll update this. So maybe check back every so often or subscribe to it, and then you'll know when I posted something. All right, so in any event, this is done with this piece of it. Now let's go ahead and create an app. And let's see if we can get this sucker to work, right? So let's do Canvas app. We'll do Google. If I could spell PALM. We'll do this, create. And then we got to add the connector. So don't show this again, skip. Let's add data, down under connectors, my Google icon. Yep, let's do this. Now we're going to need to add 3 components, an input box, a button, and then a label to get us the results, right? We're keeping it really, really simple. Text input, we'll make it about, let's log in here, make it about yay long, pop back out. Let's insert a button. Now we got a button. We'll just leave it like that. Insert a label. And we'll put this down here. We'll make it about yay big. Looks good. Let's take this though. Let's make it to the top. And where is that setting overflow? Here we go. We want a scroll bar just in case it comes back with more information than we can present. Okay, so the text input, let's replace this with, actually, you know what, let's grab what was in the custom connector. Let's go back over here. Should land me there. Same environment, good. Okay, custom connectors. We'll add this. We'll come over here to test, completions, and I just want to copy this out. That way we get apples to apples comparison. We know that it's working. We'll paste that in here. Now under the button, let's use the custom connector. And wait for that. And we want to use the completion one, not the get models, right? Because this is the one that's going to provide the information. So for the temperature, let's just say we'll leave it at the default setting, leave that for default. Let's do prompt. Actually, you know what, let's just change it. That way you can actually get to see the right way of doing this. So temperature is going to be, I'll just leave it this, let's just make it creative. So the temperature can either be 0.1, 2, so on and so forth, all the way up to 9, and then it goes to just basically 1.0, which is essentially the temperature. Think of it in terms of creativity. How creative do you want? The higher the creativity, though, you have the higher chance of hallucination. So something that's a good medium is typically 0.7, but because we're writing a story, we don't really care about embellishments or hallucinations because that's part of creativity, right? You kind of think of and imagine things. So we do want a high degree of hallucination or creativity in what we're asking it to do. Okay, so now it's a prompt, so let's do that. Now, this is where I told you Google's got some really wonky ways of doing things, and it makes it very complicated for you as a citizen developer if you're just doing this to understand what JSON is. So it is expecting in lowercase, not uppercase, the this key value pair, right? So this is the key called prompt. And the value it's expecting, you see this up here? It says prompt : record. It needs a record. So records need to also be in brackets. So we got to put a nested bracket there. And the key has to have a very specific name called text in lowercase. So we'll do text. And now we can add in, I'm going to come over here to the tree view so I can see my input label. It's text input 1. So we're going to use TEXT. There we go, text input 1.text, because we want the text that's in the control. And now, with that being said, we should be able to close the prompt itself and then close out this information. Okay, so now this will make a proper call. Problem is, it's going to return an untyped object, and we need to capture that somehow. So what we're going to do is cut all of that out, and we're going to put in a variable. We're going to call this VAPI, so that, anyway, VAPI, we'll just leave it like that. You can call it whatever you want. And then I'm going to paste in all of that information there, okay? So this is going to return an untyped object, and then we're going to need to return this down here, which is a little bit this is like the hardest part, the next part. The esoteric part was knowing that the key value, and like you would think, if you didn't know this, and the way it works with OpenAI, at least you can just provide prompt and you can just do it like that, right? And life is super good. But if you don't do it the way that I just showed you here, it gets ugly. It needs the value for the prompt, which is the key, another record, another key value pair, and that one's text and then the input control. So that's the esoteric knowledge for that. All right, so enough talking. Let's just run this sucker. Let's get this untyped object back. I'm going to switch over to the variable section so that we can see this untyped object come back out. I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to hit view variable. Okay, this is what it comes back with. Okay, guys, so key here is very important. You're not going to get any help with IntelliSense with these untyped objects. You need to see and know explicitly and type it case sensitive based on what's in the untyped object, because if you don't and you screw this up, you're not going to get the output that you had thought of. So now for the text output, what I want to do is V API, and it's an untyped object, so it doesn't know what to do with this thing. So let's go back and look at this over here. Let's maybe bring this open so we can get a little preview, because what we want is this output, and we want the text to that output. So the first thing that we see, and again, this is hopefully you know what JSON is. The internal piece is called candidate. Okay, so candidates begins with a curly brace. That means the entire thing is a record. Okay, so that means if I type in candidates, lowercase, CANDIDATES, okay, it's still going to give me an error because IntelliSense is just ignorant, doesn't know what's going to happen. When you get it right, magically you'll see text show up in the text box. Okay, so what we're dealing with right now is a record, but inside of that record is something called a table, and we need to bring back the first item in that table. Or you could use the function index, but I typically in these use cases, because I know I just want the first item and I know there's only one item in there, I just use first, but you could use index 0, but I'm just going to use first. So we'll do first, and then we'll pop in that record, right? And then from here, we should be able to do dot, and then what is this? Output is the first one, and it's also lowercase. There we go. Magically, we now have the response. So again, untyped objects are great and powerful, but as a citizen developer platform, as a low-code platform, using untyped objects as a programmer or as a user making applications, you're going to have a much higher skill level. So anybody that's a junior or even mid-level, until you start getting to intermediate and advanced, your programmers in Power Platform aren't really going to be able to leverage this, because they're going to need some more traditional programmatic skills, and they really kind of need to know what they're doing and what the functions are. It's not that it's hard. It's not that it's hard to learn, because it wasn't too bad. Once you know, you know. But going into it, you don't know what you don't know. And if you use IntelliSense, and if you've ever watched, I'll do a call out, because I personally watch a lot of his videos, Shane Young. And so he likes to use the expression of, you just got to dig. And he loves to use that dot, because IntelliSense really helps you figure out what's going on. But a call out to another guy I watch, Reza Durrani. He recently posted a couple of videos with untyped objects, and there's not really a video out there on untyped objects. You simply just need to know JSON in order to work your way through this. And so I was able to figure this out from credit to Reza being able to show something else that he was talking about, and I was like, dang, IntelliSense doesn't work. You just have to resort back to your JSON skills. And so that's how you're able to do this. Sorry about the long rambling, but just wanted to show you how to create the new custom connector, how to take advantage of Google and the new PALM version 2. And from that point, just keep watching these videos, keep monitoring that, because obviously the APIs are going to change. I'll try to keep them updated. But if it's something broken or not working for you, leave a comment in the description box below, and I'll try to get back to you. That's it for this video. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.